TV. I am Sir Jengu, right here in Freetown, Sierra Leone. And my producer is Titus Kiregu, based in Nairobi, Kenya. Today, we're looking at social media applications and the impacts on Africa's economy, good or bad. But first, we're going to look at a roundup of some of the top stories making news across Africa. In Nigeria, we have a story of the Nigeria Labour Congress and the Trade Union Congress, both in agreement in organizing massive protests in that country over the recent price hike in electricity tariffs, and, to add salt to injury, the removal of subsidies by the government on electricity bills that citizens pay in that country. And these strikes, as we understand, are gaining hold because people are really thinking that it's hard on them. And at this point in time, when the economy is struggling, when they're trying to stabilize the naira against the dollar, government should be cushioning the effects of the economy on them. And so the increase in electricity bills on the people and the removal of subsidies is a slap in the face. That's in fact what one of the organizers have since said, and many Nigerians are in support of this action. We move to East Africa, where the subsea cable was cut, disrupting internet access in many East African countries, namely Mozambique, Tanzania, Kenya, Malawi. It was noted that in Tanzania, for example, the French island of Mayotte were experiencing a high impact of internet interconnectivity, while Mozambique and Malawi were seeing medium impact. But that did not stop a major network in Kenya, with the Safaricom, from also taking steps. Now, internet via cable, via undersea cable, is a very, very lucrative business, and it's the fastest means for internet connectivity in many homes now in Africa, as mobile network operators are also kicking in to the business by themselves launching their own fiber optic services. And so when this happened, it's a major economic drawdown for East Africa. Some say it's still continuing, but the outage seems to be under control in some countries. And we hope that the service providers and those who are managing the sea cables for East Africa would take every action possible to ensure that they restore connectivity. But nobody knows what exactly was the problem with these sea cables. Liberia. In Liberia, this past week, MPs have approved a budget that gives them $13.2 million in what they called support to MPs to unleash development projects in their regions, in their constituencies, in their villages. And this has basically been backed by the very Speaker of the Liberian Parliament. Essentially, each MP would receive $100,000 from this fund of $13.2 million. Now, the lower house consists of 73 MPs, and each of these MPs would receive $100,000, and those in the Senate, in the upper house, would get $150,000 in support. Now, it's been argued that the allocation is a traditional means for government to fan out development across communities, and that it gives the opportunity to decentralize government spending. Well, I think it is a good idea, but at the same time, it is mostly a means by which these politicians fleece the people, where $100,000 to each MP of 73 in the parliament, that's supposed to mean a lot of improvement in a lot of basic services in Liberia. But as we normally see with these things, it's hard to tell the impact this is going to bring. But we are sure that if the government is serious about it, then there should be measurable targets set for each MP to achieve, so that at least the money is utilized for making impact on communities. Same on Liberia, we have a story there. Like we always say, Africa's resources are very, very rich and they are highly demanded across the world. Well, there we have a company that's calling itself West Water Group, owing community leaders and communities in that country huge sums of money while they have been exporting logs, very rich quality logs, out of Liberia. Now, people are complaining that the very government regulator, the Forestry Development Authority, is conniving with this company to deprive Liberians of much needed community development funding, which is part of the corporate social responsibility, which amounted to $100,000. Now, even with all of the complaints made against this Westwater Group company, the very Liberian government is allowing it to export $3.5 million worth of timber. And even after it has done that export, it is yet to pay the demands of this community leaders, which amounts to $100,000. So you can see that we are still having issues with politicians protecting their people from these big companies that come in to help, who in fact exploit the resources. But do you blame them? No. You end up blaming our own leaders who are seeing these things. Now, the FDA has been informed of this, and yet still they allow this company to continue to export timber logs out of the country, despite all of the complaints being made, and cannot help this the people to get their own share of a mere $100,000 from the West Water Group of companies. And this is a really big story in that country, exposing our leaders once again that they have to up the game with protecting Africans from multinational companies who come in the name of development and progress. South Africa is a crime scene because not a day goes by when you do not get stories of people being murdered while being robbed in the country. And this past week, there was a sad story of a boy. His dad came home in his very fanciful car. The boy came out to welcome dad. And in the attempt to hijack the car, to steal the car, they shot dead this 5-year-old boy. Now, this is a common story across South Africa. Black majority rule has now descended into major crimes where black people try to make money by any means necessary, and where criminals go on a rampage. Now, the story is such that even with community vigilante groups, community self-help endeavors to protect their communities, they say that when they try to step up as community leaders, as community young people to stop these crimes, the criminals simply move to other towns and communities to engage in the same acts. And this is really worrying because that country is supposed to be a country of growth and progress and prosperity. But crime is taking a major rampage in that country. And as we speak, nobody knows who were the attackers who killed this young boy. Now, again, we still stay with South Africa because there was a lot of talk about the MK party being a big dent on the ANC, which has been a traditional party since apartheid rule was dismantled. That's the MK party in which Jacob Zuma, through his support, was enough to upset the majority of the ANC in parliament. As we know, the ANC has been the dominant party in the country since 1991. And many analysts were saying that with the MK being formed around about a couple of months ago, and with Zuma supporting them, this is going to be a major disaster for the ANC party. But we see the ANC Secretary General, going up and down the country saying that, yes, we agree that the ANC has not been doing well, but we think you can still trust us. You can still believe us. Even Thabo Mbeki, who was the second president of post-apartheid South Africa, has been out in full force supporting the ANC, explaining the ANC agenda, trying to win back support for the ANC. We now think that the hulabaloo about the ANC dropping off substantial number of votes and dropping off substantial number of seats in parliament to be a lot of just empty talk, because already the MK party, which want to become a difference, has internal issues. According to the Sowetan newspaper, it says that the party is in turmoil because Jacob Zuma, who was a prominent member there, suspended the founder of that party just last month. And this week, the founder of this party, who is Jubulani Khumalo, has himself suspended Mr. Zuma from the party. And amidst all of this suspension and counter-suspension, the South African Electoral Commission is in court appealing to a verdict in which they allowed Jacob Zuma to contest as part of the MK party candidates for the forthcoming election, coming in a couple of weeks from now. Well, matter of a few weeks from now, about 2 weeks from now, that he should not be contesting election. It would be, in fact, a slap in the face of democracy if they allow Jacob Zuma to contest. Now, the founder of the party, Khumalo, has given support to this move, to this motion, and so the South African Electoral Commission is appealing. And this is really sad news, that a party which had so much momentum, which thought it would displace the ANC, is in a massive infighting. And that infighting is reminiscent of the very, very ANC itself, when the current president, Cyril Ramaphosa, was also thrown out of the party by the then Secretary General, and that is Magashule. But Magashule was, in the end, ousted from the party. African leaders, African leadership, trouble all the time. Let us see whether the South African Electoral Commission would win its case to bar Jacob Zuma from contesting. And let us see whether that would have any dent on the MK party, and whether the suspended founder of the party, Khumalo, would continue to hold his party together. Now, Ghana. You know what happened in Ghana? The opposition are challenging the government for appointing 24 ministers without parliamentary scrutiny and approval. That's what's happening in Ghana. The opposition is saying that President Akufo-Addo's government simply violated the constitution by appointing 24 ministers and disregarding Parliament's approval process. Well, that's a big accusation against the government, because according to Section 78 of the Constitution, it says ministers of state shall be appointed by the President with the prior approval of Parliament from among members of Parliament or persons qualified to be elected as members of Parliament. And this is quite shocking. How did Ghana come to that? Because it has become the bastion of democracy, some say. And how can the President disregard the very fundamentals of the Constitution to appoint ministers, not even a dozen, but 24 of them, and disregarding in entirety the Parliament? Is that over executive exuberance, or is it over manipulation of the very Parliament itself? Let's see how the case goes, because many Ghanaians are wagging their tongues that this is unprecedented for the country to go through such blatant violation of the Constitution. But then there are some who are saying that, in fact, these members were former deputy ministers who had gone through prior approval and that their reconfirmation was unnecessary. Well, there's an argument being raised. But I think once you are elevated or you give it another role in government, it's an opportunity for Parliament to re-examine you and to come up with a report whether they would accept you as a minister or a high-profile person, which the Constitution gives them power to scrutinize and approve. That's it for the top roundup of our African stories. Now let's come very briefly to social media. It is the driver for young people nowadays. TikTok, WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or now X. These are all formidable social media applications which are being used by young people in Africa. But let's just understand the context of this story. According to Forbes, it notes in a report that these ordinary people, these influencers, these vloggers, these bloggers, these content creators, these kit makers, around the world, they are a power to reckon with. And in fact, it says each influencer brings a unique flavor to the table and looks to appeal to a specific target audience. From tech wizards to fashion lovers to fitness instructors, these seemingly ordinary individuals have built a following and turned their hobbies into successful careers. Now, we understand from this very Forbes report that a lot of money has been made from it, from the applications by many smart young people, and that for just last year alone, some $710 million was made by these influencers on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, on TikTok, on Instagram. $710 million is a huge number of money there. Now, come to Africa. Africa has seen another avenue as easing government expenditure to help. What do I mean? We are seeing a number of African young people making their own mark using these apps to make money. They have massive influence. It is something to watch. It eases the pressure on governments. It creates the opportunity for young people to open other sources of revenue. And lots and lots of young people are making money, especially in Nigeria, where the new rich are mostly entertainers, influencers, doing skits, doing content, doing blogs and vlogs. And how do they make this money? They are so powerful, they have so much following, that they can now recommend goods and services via their content to their followers. And many times we see companies benefiting from the influences of those people. So when they hold brands, they show their products on Instagram, on Facebook. They say these products are the best. These products are for you. Income from these companies rise. Sales grow. The level of awareness of their product expands. This is an opportunity for you, young people, to begin to devise suitable content that can attract followers. And followers bring companies to your base who expect you to help them promote their business. Look at some of the figures here from Nigeria. McAngel is one of the top skit makers in the country. That guy reportedly earns $300,000 a week from his various activities on social media applications, including YouTube and Facebook. And his wealth is said to be somewhere around $1.3 million. That's huge money. That's a huge money for a young man to make. And imagine the people working with him, and around him, how much they are getting from him. That is helping to make the youth gainfully engaged across Nigeria. Look at another man there in Nigeria, because Nigeria has been the forefront of this influence in business, this new means of revenue generation for young people. There's this guy called Sabinus. That guy is also a huge influencer who is spread across Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and he is making a lot of money, and his net worth is around $900,000. Yeah. And there's also Brother Shaggy, another major influencer. And this guy is also doing entertainment. He's singing as well. He's acting. He's a comedian. And his net worth is around $1.86 million, with a following, an impressive following of 12.3 million on Instagram alone. That's good news for Africa. That young people are becoming so creative that they are turning their unemployment into gainful employment with content that is attractive, that is bringing them followers, and with followers, brands are coming to them to ask them to advertise for them their products. So, Sierra Leone, Nigeria, Liberia, Guinea, Kenya, Mozambique, Egypt, South Africa, all of them young people around this part of the world should also think of ways and means. They could also make their own leverage in making money. And we also understand that these social media platforms also afford them to make money. If they put ads on your skits, on your content, it helps them to make money, which you also gain your own share from. Now imagine the impact. The impact is that lots of young people associated with content making are actually making means of employment outside of formal employment, and they're also using their money to create jobs, because some of them are even expanding into owning their own businesses, creating their own companies. But then governments are catching up, and they're introducing legislations to begin to tax these digital companies. I think they should give them time, at least 5 years, for them to develop, to grow, for others to catch up. Like Sierra Leone is a very small market. Time has to be given to them to catch up, to build content, to make themselves influential, and to also help government to reduce unemployment. So instead of rushing to increase taxes and tax them, I think there should be incentives for them to grow and to build up. And there should also be incentives for them to create their own platforms. So there should also be an African social media networks. And this is the opportunity we have in Africa. And we hope governments are conscious of the immense opportunity, of the immense role these social media application content creators and skit makers are doing to help ease the problem of unemployment. I am sure that in the coming years, in the coming months, in the coming weeks and days, more and more people, young people in particular, would discover their talents and use these networks to develop. But we want the Sabinuses of this app, the MacAngels, and all of them to begin to collaborate to develop African applications for African use, for African markets. And that will be a substantial leap for Africa to have a footprint in the digital age. I am Cyril Django in Freetown, and my producer has been Titus Kiregu, based in Nairobi, Kenya. Until next time, do have a wonderful and pleasant week.